All right. We have a packed agenda for you all today, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you again so much for joining us on this wonderful Tuesday. My name is Trisha Bautista. I'm a programs director at the National Farm to School Network. I am based in Chicago, Illinois. I want to just extend another welcome to everyone who's joining. And interested in this topic of engaging youth in food and agriculture and exploring career exploration. So excited to kick us off for this webinar. I just want to mention that last year, maybe a little less than a year ago, I joined Cynthia Walters from Green Umbrella Regional Collaborative, also a partner of the National Farm to School Network, in co-hosting a webinar on a very similar topic. And since then, I've heard from the periphery various ways farm to school practitioners are exposing young minds and youths in food, agriculture, and culinary services. So some of the organizations that I've heard from are farther along in their journey, while others are just getting started. But one thing became really clear to me is that there is a growing need for networking and resource sharing on this topic. Also, something that was really evident to me in my email correspondence and phone calls with people and learning about these efforts is that these initiatives do not often mean that you have to start from scratch. Many organizations that I connected with had partnerships built with local college or nearby universities. Some schools already had a culinary champion, and many have had infrastructure already built to get an after-school program started, or even avenues to host mentorships. So I just want to encourage you, if this is a program that or an initiative that you're looking to endeavor in, look at all the assets that you have, right? All the strengths that your program already has and all the connections across the country. So with that, today you'll get a glimpse of how these initiatives are taking place and taking shape, particularly in California. It just so happened to be that way. I ended up connecting with the lovely folks that you'll get to know in our session today. So just a quick overview of our agenda. In a moment, I'll just share about our organization, the National Farm to School Network, position Farm to School as a youth engagement strategy, and then you're going to hear from our wonderful speakers. And then we are going to have time for discussion and Q&A. So I encourage you to hold your questions or drop them in the chat if you don't want to forget them, but we will try to address them towards the end of our session, and then we are going to close from there. I will preface that I'm going to be sharing some updates and upcoming events with you also, so stay tuned till the end. Before we jump into content, I would love, and this is going to be helpful for our speakers here today, for folks in the call to introduce yourselves. So introduce your name, city, state, and school organization. And if you feel inspired to answer the prompt, please do so. What comes to mind when you think about programs that intentionally engage the youth? So please share your name, your location, and your organization affiliation, and then maybe a little response to this prompt. It can be factors, individuals, that help intentionally engage youth in your communities. Take a moment here to look at all right, we got the first one. Heard from Natasha, I think, or Allie. It was really quick. And I see someone from Tucson, Arizona. I just want to mention I'm from California, but I lived in Tucson, Arizona for many years for grad school. Welcome, everyone. So I encourage our speakers to take a look at the chat and see who's joining us. And then maybe get some ideas around what comes to mind when you think about programs that intentionally engage youth. Keep those introductions coming, but I did want to take a moment for those of you who are new to the National Farm to School Network. The National Farm to School Network we are a national network, and we aim to increase access to local food, nutrition education to improve children's health, strengthen family farms, and cultivate vibrant communities. NFSN envisions a nation where farm-to-school programs are an essential component of strong regional food system. Our NFSN functions as a national hub for resources, networking, and advocacy. So I'd love to invite folks in the call right now. If you are not yet a member of or a partner organization, I just want to uplift that we have over 550 partner organizations across the country, including U.S. territories and sovereign nations. Please check us out on our website if you want to get to know some of the partners that we have. When I first started at NFSN, we had about this was like in 2021, 2022, we had about 200 partner organizations, and we have tremendously grown. And I wanted to uplift some of those areas. Since our network expansion in 2019, we have seen a tremendous growth in our partnerships. We now have 296, probably more since I put this together, organizations that are representing local and community-based partners. And we have a growing number of partner organizations that are K-12 schools and school districts. And that's important in building this movement of farm to school, right? And then I also wanted to uplift that we have over 30% of our partner organizations saying that they're reaching and serving 50% or more of communities who identify as BIPOC. So yeah, I just wanted to uplift these specific. I, as a programs director at NFSN, this is one of the areas that I lead in the organization, and one of the things I love to do as part of the network is getting to know you all as partner organizations. The folks that you're actually going to meet today are NFSN partners, and it's been so wonderful and delightful to get connected with them. So many of you are probably familiar with the farm to school pillars. So farm to school has 3 pillars: school gardens, education, and procurement. Farm to school has these 3 pillars, and when implemented together, they can offer really a holistic approach to promoting local healthy foods while fostering connections with the broader community. I think farm to school is really a great framework for engaging our youth, and I'll tell you a little bit about what that can look like. So for school gardens, for instance, right, these are experiential learning and opportunities for us to engage youth in building skills around soil management, composting. Another is around for education, being able to integrate science, technology, engineering, and math. I met a bunch of science teachers who are using food education and farm to school curriculum into introducing these concepts to their students. And then finally, for procurement, this isn't just about integrating local food and agriculture in a school cafeteria. This also means exposing students and young minds in what agriculture, what it looks like to work with farmers and connect with local producers and food hubs. And so these are just specific opportunities that we can highlight as part of our farm to school work. Farm to school can also help promote youth leadership through those specific pillars that I mentioned earlier, integrate experiential learning, enhance and teach youth about the power of civic engagement and community food systems. Later on, as we wrap up our session, I am so excited to share one of the resources that I put together for the network, and it was inspired by the IAP2 spectrum of public participation, but it's a pathway or a framework for community engagement that we can also utilize when engaging with youth and students. And then finally, farm to school can really enable communities and students to share their stories and history as part of the work. So in this moment, we have about over 60 folks in the call. I wanted to invite you all, as you're listening to our speakers today, to think through these 2 questions. So one is, how are young people currently involved in your farm to school efforts and programs? And then what is one opportunity you see that you can deepen youth voice, leadership, or decision making within your farm to school program? So I encourage you all to think through these. And then as some of you, I just want to again take a quick moment. Thank you for the introductions in the chat earlier in the call. For those of you who are just joining, please share your name, your organization, where you're calling in from, and maybe something that inspires you about youth engagement, just to foster that connection and networking in the chat. All right. So, with that, I am so delighted and excited to introduce you all to our set of speakers. So, today you're going to hear from Erin Primer, Food Service Director at San Luis Coastal Unified School District, and then Christine Robertson, Executive Director with the San Luis Coastal Education Foundation. And then after them, you're also going to hear from Amanda Fletcher, Executive Director, who is supported by Becca Whitman, Strategic Relations with the California Foundation for Agriculture in the Classroom. So without further ado, I think I'm going to pass it on to our very first speaker, Erin Primer.
Thank you so much, Tricia, and to the National Farm to School Network. What a great call to be on today. Thank you guys for joining us. And I'm really excited to talk to you a little bit about school food and how school food shows up in engaging students with our local agriculture. And I also have the pleasure of getting to introduce to you in a few more minutes the director of our Education Foundation, Christine Robertson, who's really going to take you through some fantastic programming that has been developed for our school district. So let's get into it and talk a little bit about how the heck do we start engaging kids in their school meal programs, in their educational systems? How do we get this to come to life? And so really what we've looked at are three key pieces in making this happen. And you've heard Tricia talk about them already as a lot of the pillars that are foundational for the National Farm to School Network. The first really is around that procurement piece. What are we investing in? How are we sourcing? How are we leveraging our institutional buying? We can really take those pieces and connect with local farmers and food businesses in our communities. We can elevate meal quality through those local procurement pipelines. And we can really embed these farm to school programming pieces into daily meals that students are able to consume. You can see some of the pictures I have here, and I've got some on the next slide. Hang on before you move on to that one. But food should really taste delicious. And these opportunities where we can create exceptional experiences in the lunchroom really lead to this investment in our local food source community. And then engagement. How do we engage kids in this experiential learning? One of the words that I thought of when the initial question came on is fun. I think it should be fun. I think it should have fun in what they're doing. Now, I saw someone else type in the chat about having that academic rigor, and I think you're going to see how we really blend those two pieces with what Christine's going to share with us in just a few more moments. But we really want to activate students' curiosity. That idea of hands-on learning, getting to create, grow, or make something really brings these lessons to life. And I think we can all agree that that provides a lot more of a memorable learning opportunity for us as adults and for students as well. We've also learned about these school gardens and really wanting to turn them into outdoor learning spaces where students can continue their inside classroom learning outside and have experiences growing food, growing herbs, growing flowers, really learning about our entire food system and how we grow things. And then the final piece for us has really been about connecting. How do we get kids to connect not just with their food and their food system, but with careers? They're here in school to learn. They're here to have excitement and be ignited about what is going to connect with them for many, many years to come. So to get them to understand what career pathways look like in terms of ag tech, I can tell you right now that gone are the days of the farmer in overalls with a piece of hay sticking out his mouth. That's not what we're trying to bring to the table for students to think about themselves in these roles in ag. Do farmers exist? Heck yeah, but are they doing amazing and exciting things nowadays? Absolutely. So getting kids who are into tech or video games to really see the connection through agriculture has been a pillar of our district. Next slide, please. So our strategic framework really has been around investing in these quality school meals, really looking at that procurement side. You can see this delicious pasta dish is made with local noodles from Edo Pasta. You can see this delicious produce that we're procuring. So really wanting to elevate these school meals. Then we want to engage students in this experiential learning. And what you're looking at in the middle picture is an outdoor classroom. We've moved away from the specific term of school garden because we find that school gardens need to be maintained, and they're typically maintained by volunteers or somebody outside of our district framework. And so, really, bringing this into an instructional lens and having a replicable outdoor learning space has really allowed us the opportunity to be able to look at what kind of programming and lessons can we create district wide to intentionally engage students in this program. I also want to do a quick shout out to CDFA. I saw Nick and some friends joining on the call. And it's with these investments through organizations like CDFA, KIP funding in California, these investments can really allow us to intentionally connect the garden, the cafeteria, and the classroom. And then the last piece, you'll see that photo is really about these ag tech connections. How do we get students to understand that they have a place in these systems, not just as consumers today, but as careers of the future? I'm going to let Christine talk a little bit more about what that specifically looks like. But this is a laser weeder, and I got to see a laser weeder for the first time and thought it was one of the coolest pieces of equipment. It's programmed using technology, and it can actually zap a weed. It can identify. You guys all know this stuff on the call, but I geek out about this because I want to be just like the kids, learning about how cool technology is, how cool agriculture is, how delicious it tastes in our school meals. And it's been a lot of fun, but I think a lot of this is about our partnerships, creating the strategic framework and seeing it come to life. So without any further ado, I'd like to pass the mic over to Christine Robertson. She is the director of our Education Foundation and has been a true partner in seeing this vision come to life. And she's going to share more with you about our regional K-6 Ag Tech Career Initiative with our Regional Skills Lab. Take it away, Christine.
Wow. Okay, so I think everybody on the call is probably thinking, what I really need is an Aaron primer on my team. Aaron really just brings the passion and the sort of networked, connected view to so much of the work that's happening in our school district. And that interdisciplinary, collaborative mindset, I would say, is so much more powerful than any particular program or strategy. It's really about the people who want to light kids up and map those connections. And so, Erin, as she said, she and I have been working together for the last 7 years since our education foundation was first started. And we work in collaboration with the San Luis Coastal Unified School District, but we also are working across our region, across 3 counties, to think through how do we take the work that's being done in San Luis Coastal and share it and spread it across our region. So sort of the driving force behind our work is our region's economic development strategy. On the California Central Coast, we live in a beautiful place, but we live in a very expensive place. And we live in a part of California that is just steeped in disparity. We have tremendous affluence and we have tremendous poverty. And that poverty is disproportionately expressed in our school system. Up and down our Central Coast region, 60, so 60, over 60% of our kids are designated as socioeconomically disadvantaged. But when you live in a region where the average home price is $1 million, what that tells us is that 60% does not even scratch the surface of the number of kids who are growing up with families struggling to make ends meet. So our region is thinking really critically about how do we grow more economic opportunity. And then our passion is how do we make sure that our kids are first in line with the skills, the competencies to participate in that economic prosperity. And so, for the first time ever, we have a regional economic development strategy. We've identified 7 priority sectors that are poised to create high quality jobs right here in our community. And we are laser focusing in on how do we expose kids to those jobs. One of the things that we've heard consistently from employers is that the kinds of jobs that are being added to our economy are not necessarily jobs that kids have heard about. As Aaron mentioned, they may have heard about being a farmer, but they may not know about how drones, GPS monitoring, advanced irrigation systems, how those STEM careers are growing in the agricultural sector. So a kiddo who's really interested in technology may have a tremendous career future in ag. And those are some of the dots that we're trying to connect across the region. And so our K-12 Skills Lab was launched this past year based on some work that we had piloted in San Luis Coastal Unified. When we started our work, and I will say, we are very passionately focused on elementary school. When we started, what we saw in our school district, which is one of the most affluent school districts in our region, was that about 2% of our kids of color, students from a disadvantaged background, 2% of them were taking a STEM elective in middle school. We had about a 50% gap between our students of color, students from a disadvantaged background, and their white middle class counterparts being represented in those electives starting in seventh grade. So that told us that something was happening earlier that we had an opportunity to influence. So we began rolling out career connected learning that was tied to our regional economic development strategy, hands on career exploration linked to curriculum. And what we saw 5 years into the work was that number went from 2% to 70%. And I would love to say that our program was just that brilliant. It wasn't. It was just very intentional. It was intentional. It was persistent in reaching kids when they were forming identity, when they were asking open questions about what do I like and what am I good at, but they had not yet hit the middle school years where they were self-conscious and paying attention to how their background knowledge compared to their peers. So that early exposure, the awareness and the confidence that comes from I've seen it and I've done it, that was really the key to this success. So this program that we rolled out this year, our K-12 Regional Skills Lab, is our first kind of foray into taking that work and scaling it out across this new network of 7 school districts spanning 3 counties who are simultaneously implementing this work that in the pilot year reached 13,000 kids. And so one of those lesson sets connected to our economic strategy are lessons in agriculture and ag tech. All right, we can move on to the next slide. So we implement one career connected lesson per grade level per month. So we will have a month of focusing on agriculture and ag tech. We sat down with agricultural leaders across the region and said, asked them, what should we spotlight? What do you want kids to know about that you think are most foundational, but also future facing that would give kids a baseline awareness about the types of opportunities, jobs, skills that are on the horizon. And these are the 7 lessons that we designed in collaboration with those industry partners. And you see a pretty strong mix of kind of traditional agriculture, an introduction to what is a farmer. Then in 6th grade, exposing them to the job of an agronomist, a soil science opportunity for them to understand soil types and soil chemistry. And then throughout, they're seeing a whole host of technology integrations that just are designed to give kids that hands-on sense that there are diverse opportunities in this industry and meaningful entry points based on a kiddo's interests. All right, we can move on. One of the pieces of our program that I am the most passionate about and excited about is that every one of our lessons is paired with an introductory video featuring a local employer in that sector. And so the lesson on being an agronomist features Tom Akeda of Akeda Brothers Farming. And it's local people making these connections with kids sharing their background stories, bringing representation through storytelling so that kids feel connected to what's happening in their own backyard. And so Tom talks about how his family immigrated from Japan and were migrant farm workers. They were put into internment camps during World War II, and how the local community rallied around the family and protected their farm while the family was in the internment camp, and then how the family was able to return and build just a wonderful legacy business that is thriving on the Central Coast today. And we have these stories threaded throughout the grade levels from different folks, different backgrounds, trying to create that invitation for kids to identify something about themselves, their background, their journey in the stories of other local people. We have a lot of explicit references to the local geography so that kids go, I live there, I went to school there, or we have that in common. And the structure of all of our videos, it follows the same basic kind of template. It opens with that individual storytelling to make that connection with the kids and feel accessible. Then the individual shares about the company, the job, the skills that they use every day to be successful in their line of work. And then the videos close with that individual turning it back to the classroom and saying, kiddos, today it's your turn. You're going to take on the role of a junior ag tech engineer. And as you work through your challenge, pay attention to the very skills that were spotlighted in that video. That video then tease up the hands-on activity that the kids do. It's a micro simulation of what it is to do that job through some type of project that usually lasts 45 minutes to an hour. The intention is to make this extremely user-friendly for teachers who have no background in any of this. And so in addition to the videos, every month with these lessons, we physically deliver to our network of schools, to 432 classrooms. We deliver a physical box, and in that box are the prepackaged materials that the teacher needs. So the teacher doesn't have any prep. They just hand it out to the kids. The kids watch the video and then do the activity that goes along with that lesson. The teacher gets a detailed lesson plan and even a lesson script, because we realize that a second grade teacher with no background in the subject matter may not have the language to describe what it is that we want the kids to know, or be able to kind of represent the industry or the opportunities in a way that was meaningful to industry, but also comfortable for the teacher. And so we try to take all of those points of friction out through the preparation, through the support, and then bringing these virtual experts into the classroom for the kids. All right, next slide. For those of you who have worked in education, you will share my enthusiasm for this slide. It is really hard to get teachers to say yes because they're really, really busy. They have so many demands on their plates. And, we run into that exhaustion of teachers saying, really, one more thing you want me to do? And so how do we make it a high quality experience for the kids and a high quality experience for teachers that is, focused on adoption? So when we roll this out to 432 classrooms, you hope they try it and then you hope they do it again. So every lesson we ask the teachers just to complete a quick survey to tell us, did the kids like it? What was their kind of experience with the learning? And then, teacher, what was your experience? Was this something that you felt comfortable and confident, and would you do it again? And so to see the feedback from our teachers where 95% are saying kids were totally engaged and loving it. And then 91% of teachers saying this was easy for me. We get so many compliments about the videos saying that kids really, connected, that our premise that not just pulling a video off YouTube, but introducing them to someone in their own community, a local business that kids start saying, I've seen that company name on a truck on the freeway, or I've passed by that building or that farm. That means something to me. And to have those individuals then inviting the kids to feel part of these opportunities, it is making the connection that we had hoped for. So you can see in the corner the boxes. This is what we deliver every month. And then I think we'll just go to the next slide, which is my wrap up, which everything that we have made for our K through 6 is free. It's all posted online. All of the videos are there, all of the lesson plans, lesson scripts, worksheets, all of that written collateral is in English and in Spanish for some of our dual language immersion schools. We have all of the state academic standards that are covered. Our goal is to build more opportunities for schools to link together and begin having common conversations across our region and sharing out this invitation for kids to be part of the growth and prosperity that we're building in our region. And then for this to be something that can, grow to be a statewide conversation and a national conversation, because ultimately the world is changing really fast. Technology, automation, AI are just reshaping the workforce, and we feel a tremendous passion and excitement about the opportunity to reach kids early, to inspire them, to invite them into the conversation, and then to really center our workforce strategy around those who historically have not been able to fully participate in these opportunities that we're creating. But by reaching kids early, we can level the playing field and create more equitable and inclusive opportunities that ultimately drive economic prosperity in our region. It's a total win-win, but we have to do it together. One school district alone can't build a regional talent pipeline, so it is a team lift. So I know we're saving questions for the end, but I am now excited to hand it off to Amanda, who's going to share some of the work that they're doing on a larger scale.
Thank you so much, Christine and Aaron, and what an inspiration on a school district level and a couple counties level of actually implementing the work that's going on. So thank you so much for sharing. Uh, as was mentioned, my name is Amanda Fletcher. I'm the Executive Director for California Foundation for Agriculture in the Classroom. We work on a statewide level. And I have my fellow presenter here today, Becca Whitman, who is our strategic relations. And we're just going to share with you today a little bit about the work that we're doing to cover farm to school and career exploration on a statewide level. Next slide, please. So just a little bit about CFAITC. We are a nonprofit organization dedicated to educating youth throughout California about the importance of agriculture in their everyday lives. We are an affiliate company of the California Farm Bureau, which does lend to a wonderful network of farmers and industry experts that we utilize for all of our materials. We serve pre-K through 12th grade educators throughout the state of California. All of our resources that we have are available for free. Next slide, please. And what that means, what we kind of do is we develop teacher tested and scientifically sound materials. All of our materials go through several rounds of pilot testing and teacher collaborative writing in order to make sure that it works in a classroom setting and is a need for our classroom teachers. All of it is provided for free on our website, or we actually ship out physical materials to teachers as well. We also provide a couple different programs that we're going to go through today for inspiration and training opportunities for educators. We partner with many like-minded organizations, some I'm seeing on our chat here, throughout California in order to bring this type of programming. And we do a couple different recognition programs for students and teachers. And then the last part that Becca's going to talk about is we really are looking to explore the pursuit of careers in agriculture and continuing their education. And so we're going to go to the next slide, please. This is our quick little snapshot of our team. We are strategically placed throughout the state in order to help multiple. It's a large state. It takes, I think it's 16 hours from top to bottom. So we want to make sure that we're strategically placed to help where we can. Next slide, please. And I will say for those of you who are out of state, every single state has an Ag in the Classroom program. Every state and every territory. I actually just came back from the National Agricultural Conference last week in Rhode Island. So our resources are available for mostly California, but there is an Ag in the Classroom in every single state. So they have resources as well. So just to go through a few of our programs, we do a California Virtual Farm Day every spring, usually in March during National Agriculture Week. It's just a virtual field trip. This last one was on the farm to school journey. We took students to a vegetable production in the Central Valley. We took them to a regenerative beef farm up here closer to Sacramento. They got to see what a food hub looked like. They got to go see a school cafeteria and then a school garden. And then during the live showing, students got to ask questions from each of those presenters, which was super fun. All of those videos are on our YouTube now and still available for viewing as well. Another program that we have every year is our Imagine the Story Writing Contest, where we're bringing a little English language arts into agriculture. Students write a story about anything in agriculture. They submit it to statewide judging. Our top winner from each 3rd through 8th grade band gets published and in an actual book that goes into the Library of Congress and everything. Next slide, please. Another program that we have is our Literacy for Life grants available for California teachers, and I think we have a few on the call here. $750 for any type of agricultural project. It could be a new garden, it could be bringing cooking supplies into your classroom, it could be books, anything like that. Those grants are currently open if you're a California educator. Taste and Teach is another program that we have where it's 10 months worth of commodity curriculum. So if you want to teach about tomatoes, we have a full month of tomato curriculum lesson plans for you. If you're a California teacher, we do have partnered with 2 grocery stores here in California where you can get a $200 gift card to purchase products to taste in your classroom, which is why it's called Taste and Teach. Next slide. Another program that we have is our Farm to Future. Again, we are an affiliate company of the California Farm Bureau. So we've teamed up with the young farmers and ranchers in the California Farm Bureau, where they will come to your classroom and do some activities and do a little read aloud with your elementary students, which is super fun. We do host an annual conference. This year, we've kind of split it up into 3 regions in California. So we'll be visiting Santa Rosa, Merced, or Modesto, and San Diego later this fall for a 1-day seminar. And that information you can find on our website. Next slide. And I mentioned we have lots of resources. This is our 40th year of being Ag in the Classroom. So we have 40 years with your lesson plans that we've created and developed and keep tweaking as we go along. Here's just a quick snapshot of a few of our different lesson plans. We have lessons and fact sheets. So you'll see kind of the one that says Ag Bites. Those are quick 20 to 30 minute lesson plans that are all hands-on. All perfect. Thank you so much, Tressa, for that. That are all hands-on and great to just do quick little lessons. Anything from doing a little desktop garden to creating ice cream in a bag and any type of quick little thing. All of our lessons are also hooked to the California state standards. So the standards will be listed in each of one of those lesson plans. We also have full lesson units if you want to get a little bit more in depth on any kind of subject that you're doing in agriculture. We have those great fact sheets, which we have 42 different commodities that we have. It's basically an encyclopedia for those commodities. So students have a great research tool instead of, in the world of Google and AI and that kind of stuff, we want to make sure they have a trusted source for information on growing practices and things like that. So that's what those fact sheets are for. We have all kinds of different wonderful posters for your classroom, as well as our What's Going On student newspaper that we're currently working on our new edition, but our previous edition that came out this January was on Farm to School. So it's our Farm to School Adventures. It's a 16-page newspaper that you can request full classroom sets from us. We'll send them to you. It's geared for 3rd through 8th grade, and it's just full of activities learning about Farm to School. We have a couple different student-friendly websites. The one particular on the slide right now is our knowingwhatsgrowing.com, where you can actually go onto that. It's kind of an interactive little game for students. And you click on it and it shows a county in California, and then it shows the specialty crops that are grown, and you go through different modules to learn about that specialty crop, from growing practices to what it looks like seasonally to recipes that you can use with that specialty crop. And then at the end, students can collect little badges and ribbons for participating in it. That particular website also comes with accompanying lesson plans specifically for fourth graders in California, linking to history in California and how the gold rush affected agriculture in California, which is kind of fun. Next slide, please. I'm going to turn it over to my cohort Becca here to talk about a little bit of our career exposure work.
All right, Trisha, keep up with me. We're going to speed through this because I know there are a lot of questions in the chat. So to kind of connect what we've been talking about, all the wonderful things happening in ag with these little kiddos, and Christine and Aaron, I mean, I can just say ditto. We love it all. You guys are fantastic what you're doing down there. I'm so inspired. What's Growing On, our student newspaper, 2 years ago, we did one specifically on careers in ag. It looked at everything from horticulture to food science to animal science. And there's a shot there of the table of contents, of course, our tech, our drones, all those fun things. So that was a fun one. That is a 3rd through 8th grade resource, but we've actually had teachers on the ends there say they use it, right? It's a great interactive and engaging way for the kids to kind of roadmap. I like this. I don't really care about that. I do want to work at a desk. I never want to work at a desk, that kind of thing. Next slide, please. And then we have some energy and sustainability work that we've been doing. Our high school unit, we've had for a long, long time. It's kind of that older looking resource at the bottom there. Recently, though, just like Christine and Aaron have discovered, we have also heard from educators and industry experts that kids need some career exposure earlier. So we are starting to target the middle school crew. They are a curious bunch. They are still open, and they are, like you've mentioned, ahead of having to choose those electives. So we want to get them prepared as best we can. So there's some information on that. Next slide, please. And then, as we've heard, the farmer visual perhaps has changed over the years. So we created an early childhood curriculum. Pre-K and kindergarten had a tremendous success with it. There's a few more pictures on the next slide, but that one's been very popular. We also have our middle school food science. Thank you, Trisha. So there's a little look at what life on the farm goes over. I mean, anytime you have circle time involved, I just feel like it's going to be a win. And then we have another example of one of our 3rd through 5th grade resources on careers in animal science. Next slide, please. And then some of our current projects. So we've all noticed the trend in farmers getting older, and there's a lot of opportunity. And we have leaned on a fantastic resource through the Community College of California group. They have a Centers for Excellence, and they do all sorts of data research about what are going to be well-paying, accessible, and growing jobs in various regions throughout California. So with that in mind, and given we need kids to understand where their food and fiber come from, we started a 4-year project called Cultivate Careers, and it is based out of the Kern and King counties area. We are in year 2, but we're basically building a framework for seniors in high school, specifically in math, science, and ag mechanics, that will then grow into an internship program to help them get a job. Next slide, please. And then we have a planning grant that we just wrapped up that really leaned on our educators and our industry friends, other nonprofits around the Sacramento region. But the focus was on what are those really great jobs that connect food, ag, health, and wellness. So it was a lot of fun. Now we're looking to, identify funders who can get us to the next level of building it out and disseminating it. Because as we have talked about, we need the kids to just be aware. There are so many opportunities, and it's not just driving a tractor anymore. So next slide. All right.
And back to me. So one of the things that we developed a couple of years ago, actually with Fresno Unified, with a farm to school grant, I think the first round of grant funding in California, was our farm to school resources. So next slide, please. So we created these resources kind of after Harvest of the Month sunsetted in California. Our current commodities that we focus on are tomatoes, grapes, apples, citrus, carrots, herbs, leafy greens, asparagus, berries, corn, avocado, and melons. And we're adding additionals every single year. This year we're adding pears, broccoli, and almonds. And these are really great resources if you're doing kind of monthly commodity type work. Go on to the next slide. Each of these months includes a printable poster, which includes botanical information, nutritional benefits. It has a farmer connection. Each one has a link to a video where we've actually interviewed a farmer, very similar to our friends here. And again, getting those kids that real world exposure to, hey, that's a farmer in California. I might be close to that person. It has some cute little fun jokes on there and then facts that are interesting to kids. Next slide. Also included in the suite are these commodity mini books. They're quick, easy little line art coloring books that they create themselves. And it just has great facts about that particular commodity. And it's just a great activity to include in them. On to the next. And then the biggest part of our farm to school resources is each commodity has 2 years worth of monthly newsletters jam-packed with activities, lesson plans, nutritional benefits, a little bit more of a farmer spotlight in there. We did 2 years worth. So if you're teaching, a combo class, you have different ideas for the next year if you want to keep teaching about it. So it includes the farmer profile, nutritional benefits, a play with your food type recipe, as well as, a kitchen connection recipe, a couple different recommended videos to enhance the learning, some other books and websites, and just resources to keep teaching about that commodity. Next slide. So just a cute little play with the food. I wanted to zoom in a little bit on some of the resources specifically. Go ahead to the next slide. So this is one of the lesson plans that we just did for avocados that came out this last year. It was Froggy Face Toast. We did this actually at our statewide conference in last September, and the teachers were even having some fun creating some froggy toast on there. Again, it's just a different way for students to make food interesting. You might not want to look at an avocado and eat it. You might not want to look at a English muffin and eat it. But if you make it into a fun little froggy face, it's not as intimidating as individual ingredients, which is kind of fun. Next slide. So within the newsletters, there's always a classroom connection, which is always a teacher-facing lesson plan that is aligned to standards and is also has a worksheet that goes along with it. So next slide, I'll show an example of that. So this particular one was an avocado inspection. So it asks students to weigh it, to look at ratios, to look at the flesh to the pit, to look at different indications for just observation when it comes to picking out a good avocado. Next slide. So that was a little bit of that, and I think we're on to questions now, right?
Well, first, I just want to say thank you all so much for sharing your practices, strategies, and so many resources. And I just want to call out my Farm to ECE folks in the call because we even got a little bit of ECE resources here. So now is our time to open it up for questions. I'm dedicating about 5 minutes for this. But yeah, if you are willing to unmute yourselves for questions or drop them in the chat, we're happy to address them. You're,
Oh,
no, go for it, Becca.
Amanda, one of the questions, or Erin or Christine, for California, are the NGSS standards the same as science? Yeah. Okay. That was one of the questions I'm seeing in the chat.
Yeah, thank
Yes.
you, Becca. It's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, California adopted NGSS standards, yes.
Uh, do quick question. Do y'all provide trainings for teachers? And if so, like, are any of them virtual or? Because yeah, that's the biggest thing with us is having our teachers actually do something without having like the principal really want to implement it. We worked with an outside organization to let me show my door. Uh, to do the hands-on food education, and that seemed to be like the way that was like it seemed to be working. But if there's any resources for that, I'd love to connect with those things and any funding resources for paying for it, if we have any.
Definitely. So we at California Ag and Classroom do offer teacher trainings. We actually have our three regional coordinators who will come out and do professional developments at school districts or at specific school sites, as long as it kind of works. Or we'll also do virtual trainings as well. So that is an option.
What's the cost for you guys to come out?
It's free. Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Oh,
we're a nonprofit. The only thing.
you're muted.
Amanda, you
Thank
got
you.
muted somehow.
All good. Yeah, everything that we do at Ag in the Classroom is completely free for educators. Everything that we ask for is conference registration, and that's simply for meal costs. That's it. Other than that, everything else is free.
Great. Also, we have several questions coming in the chat. I don't know if we have time to address them verbally, but speakers, if you have resources to offer answers, please pop them in the chat as well. I think I saw Brooke raise their hand first. So if you want to ask your question now.
Yeah, thank you. It's kind of a big picture question for whoever wants to answer, but as a garden educator, I'm seeing a huge shift, especially in this kind of career introduction stuff towards STEM and very much in the STEM silo. And I'm just curious if any of you have perspective on why we're not offering more exposure to other types of ag or food careers like regenerative agriculture, more local food systems, more like food policy, food security, that kind of stuff. I definitely see the value in STEM, of course, but I do care about those things as well as an educator. I know our students do too. So yeah, any perspective would be awesome.
I can speak on behalf of the program that we're doing. So, we're taking I would describe it as a two-pronged approach. The program that I described, which is our K-12 Regional Skills Lab, is really laser focused on our regional economic development strategy. Where do we forecast high quality job growth at a meaningful enough scale that we could project economic mobility for a good percentage of the kids in our community. And, because we have Cal Poly University in our backyard, which is a premier agriculture but engineering school, we have a lot of ag tech innovation happening in our region. So that informs the specific emphasis on ag tech and STEM behind our K-12 Skills Lab program. At the same time, what we haven't talked about, I think Erin nodded to it, but we're also working within our day in, day out curriculum and looking at how do we thread more opportunities for exactly what you said into our science kind of blocks of instruction, but do that in a more integrated way. I would say one of the challenges that we always confront that we're trying to solve for in a particular way with our Skills Lab program is access to resources. So even, I would call it the privilege of having a school garden. That's not something that we see in some of our most geographically remote and economically disadvantaged school districts. And so we're always thinking about equity and scale behind our programming when we do kind of curricular integrations and expansions. And I think bluntly, that's a policy issue where we have to, have policymakers thinking about prioritizing resources for the types of learning experiences that are really meaningful. And I just don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you, Christine. I think we have one more for a verbal question. Maybe Maggie, if you're ready to unmute, ask your question.
Yeah, thanks so much for taking my question, and I hope it's a fit for this segment of this conversation, which is I'm working at a point of trying to institutionalize some of the programming that we have been doing. So, I mean, I provide technical assistance, like I understand that you all provide technical assistance, but we're at a point where we're trying to move to the back seat as opposed to being in the driver's seat, and let teachers and schools determine how these programs are going to not just be funded, but exist within their own schools without our organization in leading the way. And I was just wondering, an offline answer might be better. You're welcome to follow up with me via email, but I'm just wondering if anyone has had any experience with or templates or a process that you followed in making that kind of institutionalization process happen. So I guess an exit strategy, but in the very best way of an exit strategy.
Well, eyeballs looking at me. So, Maggie, I'm going to give you a little bit about that. I will tell you that we have been in the midst of this. We have had parent volunteers. We've had another local nonprofit that is something that has to be paid for by PTAs in order to maintain these district school gardens. And it's been very difficult. I think what Christine was speaking to is what's difficult is that replication of instruction so that there is equity across the system. We have seen some gaps in this area by having some sites who can afford it pay for exceptional programming, and the sites who can't afford it just don't. And that is really how we spent a lot of time talking about this exact conundrum of how do we make sure that what we provide from an instructional learning standpoint is replicable and accessible across the entire system. If we're not building for that, we need to really look at what choices we're making, and maybe even take a step back and say, how is this choice going to affect everyone throughout the system and not just those benefiting at one particular site over another? And so what our strategy has been is really looking for the district to take those responsibilities back on. And the way for us to do that is to, number one, build this space. We can't tell teachers that they need to go outside and replicate what they do in the classroom in a space that is not readied for them. So having that district interest, I think, really is essential. Now, how did I get the district side to say, yes, we want to do that? Time and patience and a lot of sharing the strategy, right? What my custodial team wanted to hear was how we were going to make sure that this didn't go into some no one's taking care of it and an eyesore, and right. So really trying to figure out with your different stakeholders what is the message they need in the system that you're designing. I think really helps get people to come to that table and looking at it in a new way. I know we were talking a lot in the chat about renaming it. When I would talk to people about school gardens, the door would shut. They would say, I don't want to talk about that. That's an eyesore. That's not something that's replicable. That's not sustainable. But Christine and I knew that we had ideas that were sustainable and were replicable. So how do we get those pieces into the conversation? Sometimes it's as simple as changing it from, okay, we don't want to talk about school gardens. We're going to talk about outdoor learning centers. Suddenly I could have a lot more conversation with people around that term, even though functionally it was the same, right? So really looking at what words are we using, what's the approach that we're coming into. But really, from a district perspective, I think districts do want to see that there's replicable programming that will benefit all students and not just parts of it. Maggie, I'm happy to share more, and we can jump more offline if you want to jump into more of the nitty gritty. But I love
That would be
that you have
fantastic.
such
Yeah.
a pure heart for a beautiful, graceful exit strategy. And I think you will find partnership where people want to continue that on, but it might need to be done in maybe a different name or a different approach.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for that excellent question and inspiring responses. I just want to, I know we're at time, but I do have a few things to share to close out. So if it's okay for you to stay on, would love to have you. I just want to flag, we have lots of questions and comments in the chat. It is my goal to take a look at those questions and connect you to the specific speaker or potentially other organizations to help address that question. I will compile our slide deck and recording and send it out to all registrants of this webinar. The one last thing, I have an evaluator hat at NFSN, and as I was listening to these wonderful intelligent speakers about how we can innovate around this topic, I'm already formulating some of the questions. And Brooke, you've inspired me. I think there are so many ways that we can continue this conversation and strengthen our youth engagement and workforce development. So as you see, we have our contact information in the screen here. I will be following up with everyone with those information. I also want to share NFSN put together it was inspired by the IAP2 spectrum of public participation. This is just a really cool framework and pathway to enhance your community engagement, but also can be used for youth engagement efforts. Before we end, I also just want to put a plug. We are having a partner meeting later this year. So if you are a partner organization or interested in becoming one, this is a meeting for you. This is happening in concert with the California Farm to School Summit. We have a lot planned for the week. We even have a dedicated pre-session for farm to school coordinators and those in similar roles, or school garden coordinators, parent engagement coordinators. We have a scholarship available for you. So if you would like to scan the QR code, welcome to do that. We also have our registration up. Last but not least, as part of my outreach for this topic, and as I kicked it off, as I mentioned earlier, I partnered with Cynthia Walters last year to host a very similar webinar. I learned so much from so many partner organizations across the network doing such incredible work. And so we do have plans to continue this conversation. So on July 8th at 1 o'clock Central Time, we are having a different vibe of a webinar. So folks, attendees are going to have an opportunity to select a room where they want to deep dive. So we have topics like cultivating skills and leadership through hydroponics. We're going to meet with Chef James in Houston, Texas, to talk about youth leadership and pathways to culinary services. You're going to hear about agriculture-based lessons, maple sugaring, orchardist skills, and then we're also going to hear a topic around youth paid leadership programs. And so please register if you haven't already. Like I mentioned, we just want to keep learning from you all and all the different resources and network engagements you have. Thank you all for staying a little bit past the time. I really appreciate it. And thank you to our wonderful speakers. I hope to stay in touch, and I hope to see you in Sacramento during the partner meeting week. It's a pleasure to work with you all. Thank you, Erin. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Christine. And thank you, Becca. Incredible work.
Thank you.